Yo, what's up, guys? I wanted to do a video on AMD here because obviously this thing has been killing it, right? So, I figured I would lay some of this out here and figure out the run that it's been in and potential support, resistance ideas here that we could be looking for. So, you know, this thing moved a lot like Tesla had some crazy crazy upside here. So you can see it likes to create these I think ascending triangles here. Usually a flat top is an ascending triangle. So it's been breaking up, consolidating, breaking up, consolidating, breaking up, consolidating, so on and so forth. And towards the end here, this is just my hypothesis here, and there's two different ways that you could look at it. Okay, so my idea here is it kind of looked like it was in a bull flag, right? Of course, you have the beautiful buy up here, and then you started creating this upward sloping support and this upward sloping resistance here, right? So this is my initial thought was this is a potential bull flag or a rising channel. And then obviously we've pulled back a lot and we were, up in this range here and we were actually creating bearish divergence. We're higher on the left here, lower on the right. And obviously in the price action, you can see on the weekly, lower on the left, higher on the right. So we have a couple different things we could do. So now obviously this RSI is correcting here. Let me take a look here and see if we can visually see anything. Not really, except you could probably, potentially draw some trend lines here on the RSI and say that this was potential support and this is potential. We could go like this. We could go any which way, really. We could do this. Let me see what would make more sense. Could do something like that, right? And then this would be considered potentially a rising channel like this. Or this is actually more of a rising wedge right here, right? Just to relate here, for the hell of it, while I'm on this thing, I want to just kind of take a look at something in the past here as well. So and this is kind of like my first time analyzing it. I just started drawing these up about 5 minutes ago on the chart because I wanted to see where it was at. So, does this show us anything really? Not too much. It's kind of just getting in the way. So anyway, scratch that idea. I was kind of trying to look in the past here if we ever had any rising channels that looked like that in the RSI and how they played out and so on and so forth. But anyway, so what I basically took from this is basically basing off of these wicks down here where, price action came up, got rejected at the top here, came back down, found support, came up, got rejected, came down, found support, came up, broke through resistance, came up, found resistance on this upper sloping line, and came back down, tried to create this old resistance as new support, failed, came down. This was the upward sloping potential support that actually, if you see here, just wicked right on through, right? So if we did actually say that this wasn't the case and we went off of, should probably leave that where it was. And we got rid of this upward sloping trend line here. And instead, we said, this isn't that wasn't a rising channel. And this is what we got going, right? And we'll just use that upward sloping there as potential resistance on the way up. So I guess you could do like something like this, right? Let's just see if this makes sense. So you take these wicks here, and I want to run them to this wick here, at least. So, that's kind of what we did. All right, so let's just say that this was a rising channel here, and the breakdown of this rising channel potentially right now would be the size of this, right? So it would be from the breakdown. So if this was the breakdown here, or if we're breaking down here, potentially your breakdown target would be $70.86. Now, of course, this is my other thought here. Even though it does look like this could be a rising channel or something, that this green box here is actually a bull flag, right? So if we extended this and we got rid of these two lines here, and we extended this out here to see what we could be possibly forming or what we were forming, okay, then you can see, zooming out, this is a beautiful bull flag right here, right? And this is your pole. And when you measure your pole, you do the size of the pole, which would be right here. And this would have been your breakout, okay? So all the way up to $123. Now, because we couldn't turn this into newfound support here and we fell through, it will most likely, in my opinion, come back down and test this bottom as support here, which is roughly $74, $73.98, as low as $73.59 at the most, right? So that is kind of where I would be looking to potentially scoop some up and maybe keep a stop loss below this 50 weekly EMA. And when this thing does further, it can come back up, it can bounce, it can, get rejected there, come back further down, it can come up, it can, have a fake break, so many different things. It doesn't have to just go straight down. But if you do notice that it is just kind of coming up, rejecting, and slowly working its way down, in my opinion, I would expect that it's going to come down to this level here, and we want to see it hold support. It could even wick to this $73 level just because that's the 50-week EMA, and it might just be there. So let's look at some technicals here, and let's see if we have any confluence of this dropping. So I don't see any red TD9 flashes or anything, but there is quite a bit of spinning tops here. So this was actually giving quite a few signals here that something was going to be coming very soon up in this range here, as well as we started rounding over here and whatnot. So you can see that this white here, this white line on my Ichimoku cloud, is getting ready, pointing downwards, and usually when it does cross negative, it does push the price down, and it's to be expected because, like I said, I'm expecting some support, some very strong support to be down in this range here, depending on how many weeks it takes to get there. But that would be where I would be mainly looking. You could break it down in a couple different ways as well. We could say that instead of going off of that first idea of that whole area being a rising channel, then we could go by, maybe we could do something like this and say that this right here was your potential rising channel right here, right? And then your breakdown of this rising channel, if this was the rising channel like this, let's see if this would make any sense here. Your breakdown of the rising channel there would actually be pretty damn close to the target that it hit, actually, to almost to the fucking T. So that's another way to look at it, which in that case could mean that would be it potentially, but it doesn't have to be because, like I said, we have some technicals showing that we could continue going down. But let's see if this is on the weekly, of course, so that takes some time to play out. So if we take a look here on the daily here, and let's see what we have going here. And let's take a look at the RSI here. So if you look at the RSI, and we drew some trend lines here on the RSI, we could see that, let me look. Maybe I'll go up like this. We can see that we're in like a falling wedge here. So as of right now, we come up, we test this area, we get rejected, come up, test this area, get rejected, come down, so on and so forth. And it looks like we just came up and we're getting rejected here, but we could still round up and maybe come up and test this. And if we do break out of it, obviously we could get a buyback here depending on how this works out here. But as of right now, let's see if I hide some of this. You can see where your resistance is going to be on this as of right now. You have strong resistance here at 86.58, strong resistance at 88.24. And that's really your main resistance line right now, in my opinion, is right here. We could have some wicks up here if we do get pretty bullish. But mainly you're not going to probably get above this $90 range here for a while, unless you get some massive buyback. So anyway, let's see if I hide some of these and see what else we could see in this. So obviously we have to be cautious at the same time as we can see we could have some beautiful support here. But another thing that you want to keep your eyes on here is the potential of this kind of looking like it could be a left shoulder ahead if we test the support. And if we come back up and we were to get rejected here, then you would actually have a further downside. And that's really going to be confirmed based off of whether or not we are going to be going into a midterm bear market here in the stock market. So that's why for me, if I was playing this, of course I would wait until we got confirmed entry above this 88.77 again, and then play it a breakout from there, right? But if you are holding long term and you're looking for averaging down or just buying some shares at certain levels, I would look for this 73, 78 level personally. And then, just keep that in mind when we do run back up once it comes down here. I mean, at some point we're going to run back up and test that because, once you get into this oversold area, you can see most of the time when we were down here in the daily, we've had some pretty big wicks, of course, below. But for the most part, we've bounced off of this dotted line or roughly in this range here. And you can see here that we are potentially still in this range a little bit. But we, at the same time, though, we do have some negative things coming in here. We have this death cross coming in, this red 50 daily EMA, and this yellow 21 EMA is crossing this 200. So that's showing we're going into a short-term downtrend, of course, which is, pretty obvious here, but this just means it's going to be a little bit more prolonged. So this is kind of the area of support that I would be targeting for sure. And like I've said, is something to keep in mind once you do get here and you do get a nice bounce, because I expect you will, whether we come down, do a nice double bottom, or something like this. As you see, we had this beautiful W here, and we do something similar, right? Depending on how the market sentiment is going at that point, we're going to want to be very cautious in this level, because a lot of people and traders will be viewing it as a potential of this being some type of head and shoulders pattern here that could actually do something further. And these bullish patterns, they're not guaranteed. They can break down, of course, depending on how everything goes. I mean, if you look at COVID and you look at some of the stocks back in COVID crash, you can see that many stocks were in absolutely beautiful consolidation, long-term, amazing patterns, and they all just dumped from them, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. And then if that was to occur, we could look at negative downsides here, just saying that this was actually going to, and this is, going to be a while, a couple months at least before that would play out anyway. But we'll say, so the only way that would be confirmed also is if in fact it does fall below the $73 level and starts consolidating underneath this pattern here, right? So it's not like it would just go boom, you know what I mean? Unless we're going to have a COVID fucking error, which I don't think we are. I think we're just having correction. I mean, every stock I've looked at, the RSI was way, way up here, and this area up here is a potential of, some overextended areas here. So, we've been able to be up in this area, but for the most part, if you look in the past here, every time we were in this overextended area here on the daily, we did have a pretty sizable drop. It just might feel a little bit, I don't know if it feels a little bit further than normal on this potential correction or not, but I mean, some of these have been some decent drops here. I mean, if we kind of like look back at the percentage here of some of these drops here. I mean, from this peak to this peak here, you're looking at a 21% drop right there. And, you know, even looking back here on its correction that it had here, let's look here. You know, from this peak down to this peak, 35% correction. So, I mean, you know, this could be perfectly normal to you if you do play this thing, and this could be like, oh, whatever, it's just a normal day in the life of AMD corrections, right? Because you guys are used to this 25-30% correction, beautiful run up, 25-30% correction here, right? So right now it might be a little bit bigger if it does in fact come down, because you're coming from this potential area all the way down to here. I mean, even still, it's roughly, if it does come all the way down there where I'm expecting, that's still a 25% correction there. Minus 25.76%, right? So, you know, it's not like this is something that should be that concerning to you. So that's just kind of where I would expect this to come, and I would expect a bounce in this area here. And then, like I said, after that, then you would be, you know, just be on your toes about the potential of this coming up here. See how the sentiment's doing, and if you double top and you start getting bearish divergence or something, keep that in mind, that if it breaks this level here and it confirms that it breaks that level later on down the road, and, you know, then we could actually have some kind of breakdown here. And that breakdown target for me is 47.80. But of course, you still have much, you know, you still have a lot of support here above, which, you know, you have support at this $60 level, and then below that, obviously, 40. But I wouldn't be looking at that. I still think that this thing has room to run, and it's just getting a nice correction here. Short term, it's going to be a little bit of downside here. Well, short term, actually, let me say that differently. Short term, I don't think you're going to have some downside here, and I actually feel like you're going to get some bounces. I think the whole stock market's going to get a nice bounce very, very soon. Now, the downside here is that, you know, most likely we will get bounces and get rejected at specific areas. So my assumption here, and we can actually just on the 4 hour here take a quick look here on this thing while I have it open. We can take a look in exactly where we could buy up to and exactly what we would be looking for potential let me just change that. What we could actually be looking for a breakout target to the upside, and where we could look to be getting rejected here. So you can look here and see what happened. We had a little fake breakdown of this falling channel here. That's probably just panic selling and whatnot. 79 came down to 79 bucks. You know, we do have these moving averages crossing negative here. And as of right now, coming up here, you know, we didn't quite create bearish divergence. And, you know, looks like a small inverse head and shoulders potentially here, but this is starting to roll a little bit, right? So if it did, you know, if we did have a red downside here, yeah, you could come back to 80 before coming back up to test here. But if you do have a nice green day, or green morning or afternoon, if you do get confirmation like an hourly close with some good volume here above 85.31, obviously you have to look for this 88.20 as resistance here. But your targeted move out of this potential, it's not a huge move, but let's see where it lands. So depending on when you break up too, because like let's just say that we do break up here on one of these next, you know, in the first half of the day or so, right? This would be your potential targeted move, would be $89, with the exception that we will have resistance to get above between 87.62 and 88.23. And like I said prior, is I don't expect us to get up and get out of here. Even if we do get a wick above there, I would expect that we get a nice break here. The RSI starts coming up here, maybe test some of these trend lines here, and then we get rejected, maybe come down, maybe come back up to test it, and then further down so on and so forth coming up, and blah 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 blah, and just kind of laddering up and down here as we reset the RSI, as far as bringing the RSI up in this range, maybe create a head and shoulders here, come back down, maybe create a W, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I see the market right now, is just kind of having these small bull trap buybacks here, and people think that it's getting ready to head back up, and then all of a sudden it goes back red again, and so on and so forth, until stuff starts finding its main support areas here. So like I said, we know that this is going to be very, very good confluence here around the 74.24 to 70 351 or whatever I said, somewhere around there. But for now, you can see on this hourly here, we already did start getting a buy up here, and we're trying to break out of this green trend line here on the RSI, and it looks like it's starting to roll here, so we could actually continue getting some buyback here. I don't know where my MACD is here. Oh, there it is. So it's too soon to say right now because things change in the morning and so on and so forth, but it does look like you could continue coming up here a little bit, and you could potentially, if you don't fall back here, come back down to this 80, and then come up and maybe try to have a nice breakout here and come back up and test this old support and turned into new resistance, maybe come down back, test this pattern, ride it down a little bit, so on and so forth. So just keep an eye on that. Those are kind of where I'm at with this thing. And if you do actually get some kind of if we get some kind of catalyst like the stimulus or something like that, it doesn't have to come back down here, of course, but to me there isn't too much support here that it's wicking off of here. I don't see too much reasons where, besides that breakdown target of that rising channel, I don't see any other reason that this would just be the bottom right here, because there isn't really any support there. So usually people buy up those breakdown targets, and so that's kind of where we're at. So I just wanted to make that quick video on that. Not really quick, because I like to fucking ramble, but hopefully you guys like this. Hit the like button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a nice green Monday.